Today I'm going to show you the easiest, fastest way to build a Cardano-node server, register the pool, and configure the block-producing node. This process can usually take you hours, but I'm going to show you how to do it in 15 minutes or less. So we start by visiting cardano-cloud-init.com. This tool is going to help generate Cloud-init files, which are then used when creating servers. So we'll use testnet and the latest Cardano node version. Add our SSH key and click create. So it's going to generate these two files for us, which we're going to copy and use when creating our server instances. So we'll start with the block node here. You can use AWS, Google Cloud. I'm going to use DigitalOcean. So let's go ahead and get started by creating a droplet here. The key is going to be to check this user data box and paste in the contents that we had generated using our tool. Nothing else here matters, and we will click Create Droplet. Once the server is created, it should have an IP address, and we'll go ahead and log into it. Once we log in, we're going to go check the logs to take a look at the Cloud-init process. We can see that currently we're updating and installing packages on the server. If we were to go to the CoinCashew article on how to install and build a Cardano stake pool, we would be here at step 1, running these commands. We've now moved on, and the server is downloading the config files and the topology files. So again, if we were following the CoinCashew tutorial, we would be executing some of these commands here. The next thing we're going to do is it will download and install the Cardano node and Cardano CLI binaries, run a few other configurations, and then it will be done. When this thing completes, we will be essentially on step 9, ready to start configuring our block node. So we have been logged out of the server because it is set to restart whenever it completes, just to apply some configurations. So we can log back in, and we are up and running. If we type logs, we can see that the node is up, running, and synchronizing with the blockchain. And we can type view, which is another alias which will show us a little bit more details into how the server is running. So at this point, what you need to do is just let the server sync with the blockchain. It will take up to 4 hours, but you want to wait until the epoch is whatever is current. So that's going to take a while. Whenever the blockchain is fully synced, you'll want to make a backup of that so that you can use that backup when creating Cardano node servers down the road. So I have a backup, and so I don't need to wait for the blockchain to sync. I'm going to go ahead and copy that over so that we can continue with this demo. Alright, so what I did there was just mounted a volume that had a backup of the blockchain fully synced on it. I stopped the node, mounted the volume, copied that over, And then we're just going to go ahead and start the node again. We can check the logs and see that it's going to be back up and running here, and we'll continue syncing with the blockchain. So it's going to catch up any differences that were made since I made that backup and now. But that all looks good, and if we hit view, we can see that we're a lot further ahead than we were before. And that's because, again, I had a backup of the blockchain. I did not need to let it sync, but you will the first time you do this. All right, so we can move forward now with registering our pool and setting up the block node itself. So to get going, we type cni-init, and it will start the process here. First step is going to be to download some files from our machine to our cold environment. So let's go ahead and get ready to do that. To make this easy and visual, I'm just going to connect via SFTP. You can use whichever method you'd like to transfer files between the live machine and your cold environment. And it's worth noting that my cold environment here isn't really a cold environment for this video, and since we're on testnet, I'm just going to use my local file system, but that is not recommended, and you should use a proper cold environment. Alright, so we're going to download, unzip, put all of these in the root, and then we're going to run step 1 here. So that generates a whole bunch more certificates and keys in here, and we're going to need to upload these 3 back to our home directory. So let's copy them and upload them. Once we do that, it says that it found the files. We've completed that step, and we need to send ourselves some ADA. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, now that that transaction went through, let's go back and continue the setup. Seems like now we need to sign a transaction. Let's go back to our home directory, refresh here, see we have a step 2, which we'll download. We're going to unzip it, move the files, and execute step 2. So that has signed our transaction, which we're going to need to upload back to our home directory. Once we do that, it seems that it's found our transaction and submitted it successfully. So let's continue here with the setup. We will be entering the pool name. We're going to enter the ticker, which needs to be 5 characters or less. And this information is needed to register the pool meta, which we're now going to need to upload to a public URL. So we included a link here to the Coin Cashew article on how to do this. There's a few different ways you can go about getting this on a public URL. I'm going to use a S3 bucket that I created for this demo. So let's go ahead and download our pool metadata, upload it to S3, make sure that it is public. Alright, so we can reach this via this URL, so that means that it is publicly accessible and not password protected. So let's go back to our setup and paste this URL in here. And now we're going to continue with registering our pool, so let's put a pledge amount. I'm just going to do 0 so I don't have to send more ABA than I need to here. Go through a few of the defaults. All right, 2 more certificates we're going to need to generate, so let's go back here, and there should be a step 3, which we will download, extract, and execute. We'll upload these 2 files back, go back to our setup, and see that it found those, and we are done registering the pool meta. At this point, let's continue, and it looks like we need to send ourselves enough to cover the pool's deposit. So let's go ahead and do that really quick. All right, now that that's gone through, let's go ahead and continue our setup. So it looks like we need to sign another transaction. So let's go refresh our home directory, see that we have a step 4. And then let's execute step 4. And then assign the transaction, which we will update back to our home directory here. You can see that it found our file and successfully submitted the transaction. So at this point, we should have a registered pool. Let's continue with the setup, which is going to be the last step, where we download step 5, extract it, and execute it. And we're going to upload pid.txt back to our home directory here. And we will look up our new pool using the ID and see that it came back with some results, so that means that our setup is complete. Alright, so at this point you have created the server, have Cardano-node running, you've synced the blockchain, you've registered your pool, and you've configured your block producing node. So you're ready to basically connect a relay node and start staking.